It was the summer of 1993, in a quiet riverside town where nothing extraordinary ever seemed to happen. The kind of town where people left their doors unlocked, kids rode bikes until sunset, and the river was a place of escape from the scorching summer heat. On one particular July afternoon, 3 teenage girls, close friends since childhood, decided to spend the day at the riverbank. They carried towels, a picnic basket, and a small radio, planning to laugh, swim, and enjoy the long, warm day. Locals remembered seeing them walking down the dirt road toward the river, chatting excitedly and waving at neighbors. Witnesses described the girls as carefree, full of life, with no sign that anything unusual was about to happen. The sound of their laughter carried faintly through the trees as they disappeared into the woods that led to the river's edge. For many, it was the last time anyone saw all 3 of them together. By late afternoon, the sun glistened on the water as the girls splashed and swam, their belongings neatly placed on the shore. Their shoes, clothes, and picnic basket remained untouched, as if carefully arranged. Some fishermen downstream recalled hearing faint echoes of voices and giggles, but nothing alarming. The scene looked innocent. Just 3 friends enjoying the summer, unaware that something was waiting in the shadows of the river. As the evening approached, the sky turned shades of orange and red. One of the girls reportedly told her mother, over the phone earlier that day, "We'll be back before dark." But as twilight fell and the town lights flickered on, their absence became noticeable. Their families expected to hear the familiar creak of the front doors opening, footsteps on the porch, or the sound of laughter drifting in from outside. Instead, there was silence. A silence that grew heavier with every passing hour. When the first family member drove down to the river to check on them, the scene was unnerving. The radio was still playing softly, its batteries fading. Towels lay spread out on the grass, still damp from the swim. The river flowed calmly, reflecting the pale moonlight, but the girls were gone. No footprints leading away, no struggle in the sand, nothing but stillness, as though the earth itself had swallowed them whole. The moment the families realized the girls hadn't come home, panic spread through the small community. Parents rushed to the river, their flashlights cutting through the thick darkness, calling out their daughters' names into the night. Neighbors soon joined in, forming a human chain along the riverbank, scanning the water with lanterns and shouting into the woods. The once peaceful summer night was filled with desperate cries, echoing through the trees with no response. By sunrise, the police arrived and launched a full-scale search. Boats combed the river, their engines rumbling as divers plunged into the murky depths, hoping for any sign of the missing girls. Helicopters hovered overhead, their spotlights sweeping across the water's surface, while search dogs were brought in to trace their scent. Strangely, the dogs became restless near the river's edge, but then froze, refusing to move forward, as if something unseen was keeping them back. For days, the town became a search zone. Flyers with the girls' faces were posted on telephone poles, grocery store doors, and church bulletin boards. Volunteers from nearby towns came with ropes, flashlights, and even their own boats. Everyone expected that within hours, maybe a day or 2 at most, the girls would be found. Cold, frightened, but alive. Yet, as each day passed, hope gave way to confusion. Not a single shoe, piece of clothing, or even a scrap of evidence turned up in the water or woods. The police considered every angle. Had the girls run away? Were they hiding from someone? But their personal belongings at the scene suggested otherwise. Their purses, money, and even one girl's diary were left behind, untouched. If they had chosen to disappear, Why would they leave everything? And if they had drowned, why hadn't the current carried their bodies downstream? The river was dragged repeatedly, but it gave up nothing. Weeks later, the once vibrant search effort slowed. Families kept watch near the river, staring into its dark currents, as if answers might surface any moment. Some claimed they heard faint splashes at night, though no one could ever confirm what caused them. What should have been a simple search, 3 girls gone missing in a small town, turned into something far more unsettling. The river gave no answers, only silence, as if it was guarding a secret too dark to reveal. As months turned into years, the disappearance of the 3 girls became more than just a cold case. It became a story people whispered about in hushed tones. The riverbank, once a favorite summer spot, grew eerily quiet. Children no longer played there, and families avoided it after dark. Locals claimed the place felt different now, as if the air itself had grown heavier. Rumors began to spread, each one stranger than the last, blurring the line between fact and folklore. One of the earliest accounts came from a woman walking home late one night. She swore she saw 3 shadowy figures standing in a line at the edge of the river. They didn't move. They didn't speak. They only stared out across the water. When the woman called out, the figures vanished in an instant, leaving only ripples in the current. Shaken, she told the police, but they dismissed it as stress or imagination. Still, word of her story spread quickly through the town. A year later, a hunter reported something even more disturbing. While tracking deer deep in the forest near the river, he stumbled upon a strange clearing. In the center was a circle of blackened earth, surrounded by melted candles. The air smelled of smoke and something metallic, almost like blood. At the very center of the circle, he found 3 small wooden carvings, crudely shaped like human figures. The hunter turned them over to the authorities, but no explanation was ever given. The items disappeared from evidence weeks later without a trace. Fishermen also told stories. Some said they heard giggles, echoing across the water in the dead of night, long after anyone should have been there. Others swore they saw ripples forming on the calm surface, as though someone, or something, was moving beneath. One man even claimed that while fishing at dawn, he felt a cold hand brush against his ankle from below. He never returned to the river again. The whispers grew darker with time. Some believed the girls had never left the river at all, that they had become part of it. Others spoke of an old legend, one that predated the town itself, about a presence in the water that lured the young and innocent away. Whether it was superstition or something more, the sightings never stopped. They became part of the town's identity, a chilling reminder that the river wasn't just a place of recreation anymore. It was a place of unanswered questions. As the years slipped by, the case of the 3 missing girls slowly faded from the headlines. At first, newspapers ran stories every anniversary, with photographs of the smiling teens and desperate pleas from their families. But as time went on and no answers emerged, the coverage dwindled. By the early 2000s, the case was no longer front-page news. It was a ghost story, retold mostly by locals when the summer nights grew too quiet. The families never truly let go, but the weight of waiting became unbearable. 2 of the mothers passed away, without ever learning what happened to their daughters. Their gravestones placed not far from the riverbank, where the girls vanished. A memorial plaque was installed there too, etched with their names, where people sometimes left flowers or lit candles. To outsiders, it was just another unsolved tragedy. To the town, it was an open wound that refused to heal. By 2010, most people assumed the simplest explanation. The girls had drowned. their bodies swept away by the river and lost to time. It was easier for the town to accept that than to dwell on darker possibilities. A new generation of children grew up, hearing only fragments of the story, their parents warning them not to swim too far from shore, not to wander the river after dusk. The case became more legend than reality. Still, every so often, something would stir the memory. A lost shoe found near the banks. A report of distant laughter echoing across the water. A faded photograph of the girls discovered in a stranger's attic. These moments reignited whispers, but they always burned out quickly, leaving only silence. Law enforcement had long closed the file, marking it as unsolved, presumed accidental. For many, that was the end of it. But in 2024, 3 decades after the disappearance, the story took a chilling turn. Without warning, the silence surrounding the case was broken. On a warm summer night eerily similar to the one in 1993, something, or rather, someone, returned. And with that return came questions no one was prepared to face. It happened on an ordinary evening in the summer of 2024. A clerk at a small gas station on the edge of town noticed a figure walking barefoot along the deserted road. At first, he thought it was just a traveler in need of help. But as the woman stepped under the flickering light of the gas station sign, he froze. She was drenched, her hair dripping with water, as though she had just climbed out of the river. Her clothes were outdated, faded, and clung tightly to her body. Most unsettling of all, her face matched one of the missing girls from 1993, exactly as she had looked in the old photographs. The police were called immediately. When they arrived, the woman didn't resist. She didn't run. She simply stood there in silence, her wide eyes fixed on the officers, as if she were seeing the world for the first time. She was taken into custody for her own safety, but no one could get a word out of her. She didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't speak. She just stared, unblinking, as though trapped in a place between the living and the dead. When the DNA test results came back, the entire town was shaken. The woman was indeed one of the missing girls. But here was the impossible detail. She hadn't aged a single day. 31 years had passed, yet she looked no older than 16. Her skin, her hair, even the small scar on her hand from a childhood fall matched perfectly. It was as though time had stood still for her, while everyone else had grown older, grayer, and sadder with the weight of years gone by. Doctors and investigators rushed to study her, hoping for an explanation. But the more they examined her, the less sense it made. Her vital signs were normal, yet her body showed no signs of aging. She was physically healthy, but emotionally and mentally unreachable. Questions about where she had been, what had happened, and what became of the other 2 girls went unanswered. She refused to speak. At times, she would sit by the window of her hospital room for hours, staring at the horizon, as if waiting for something, or someone. Word spread quickly through the town, drawing reporters, investigators, and curious onlookers. People gathered near the riverbank, whispering about curses, supernatural forces, and unholy bargains. Some claimed to have seen her walking late at night, barefoot and dripping wet once again, heading toward the water. But whenever police checked, they found nothing. The girl had returned after 31 years of silence, and yet, it felt like the true nightmare had only just begun. Investigators tried every possible way to communicate with the returned girl. They spoke gently, shouted, even played old recordings of her family's voices, but nothing worked. Her lips remained sealed, her eyes distant, as if she were listening to something no one else could hear. But while she offered no words, she did leave behind unsettling signs. Nurses noticed that her hospital bed sheets were often damp in the morning, though no water source could explain it. At times, her hair would be wet again, even after she hadn't left her room. One night, security cameras in the hospital captured something deeply disturbing. At exactly 3:17 a.m., the girl rose from her bed and stood barefoot in the middle of the room. Her body was rigid, her arms stiff at her sides, her eyes locked on the ceiling. For 12 minutes she didn't move. Then, slowly, her lips began to part. Not to speak, but to release a low, gurgling sound, almost like someone drowning beneath water. The footage terrified the staff, and when questioned the next day, she had no reaction. Police searched the riverbank again, hoping to uncover what they had missed 3 decades earlier. At first, it looked the same as always, quiet, overgrown, and undisturbed. But after hours of combing the area, a deputy discovered a trail of fresh footprints, leading out of the water. The prints were wet and sank deep into the soil, but they weren't human. The impressions looked elongated, with strange claw-like edges, as though something had crawled from the river only days earlier. The trail stretched into the woods, and then stopped abruptly, vanishing without explanation. Meanwhile, the forensic team uncovered another clue near the spot where the girls' belongings had been found in 1993, beneath layers of dirt and leaves. They unearthed 3 small carvings, wooden figures eerily similar to the ones discovered years ago by the hunter. This time, however, each figure was wrapped in strands of long, matted hair. Testing confirmed it belonged to the missing girls. How the carvings had remained undisturbed for 30 years was a mystery, and how fresh hair had been bound to them was something investigators couldn't explain. The most chilling discovery came a week later. Divers were ordered to search the deepest section of the river once more. What they found sent shockwaves through the team. Fragments of old fabric tangled in the roots below the surface. Fabric identical to the clothes the other 2 missing girls had been wearing in 1993. But no bodies were ever recovered. The river, it seemed, gave back only what it chose, and it still wasn't finished. Since her return, the girl has remained a living puzzle. She doesn't speak, doesn't write, and avoids any attempt at communication. Sometimes, when questioned about the other 2 girls, her eyes fill with tears, but her lips stay sealed. It's as if she knows something unspeakable, something so horrifying that silence is her only form of survival. The families of the missing still beg for answers, but none ever come. Her silence is more chilling than words could ever be. The townspeople, however, claim her return has stirred something restless in the river. Fishermen who once dared to cast their lines there now avoid it completely. Campers report hearing whispers carried by the wind at night, voices that sound uncannily like 3 young girls calling out for help. Some locals insist they've seen pale faces beneath the water's surface, just below the ripples, vanishing the instant anyone looks directly at them. The river, once a place of leisure, has become a place of fear. The girl herself seems drawn to it, as though tethered by an invisible chain. On more than one occasion, she was found standing at the riverbank long after midnight, her bare feet in the mud, staring out across the water. When approached, she would not resist, but neither would she explain. It was as if she was waiting for something, or perhaps for someone, to emerge from those dark waters. Witnesses described the look on her face not as fear, but recognition. Authorities keep a close watch, but strange incidents continue. Fresh footprints, always wet, are found along the banks at random intervals. They never lead far, vanishing into the soil or disappearing back into the water. Strange objects are discovered: 2 fragments of old ribbons, cracked lockets, and once a small notebook with its ink completely washed away. These relics seem to surface and vanish just as suddenly, as though the river is teasing the town with pieces of the truth it refuses to fully give. The town is left in a state of dread, trapped between hope and horror. Some believe the girl's silence hides a deal made long ago, that she was allowed to return only under unspoken conditions. Others think the other two girls are still alive, somewhere beneath the current, suspended in time, waiting. And every night, as the river flows silently under the moonlight, the same question lingers in the hearts of those who dare to look at it too long. What exactly happened on that summer day in 1993, and why did only one come back? And so, the story remains unsolved, a puzzle trapped between time, silence, and the dark pull of the river. 31 years have passed since that summer day, yet the water still carries secrets no one dares uncover. What really happened to those three girls? Why did only one return, unchanged by time? And why does she refuse to speak? Perhaps the answers are buried at the bottom of the river. Or perhaps they're still walking among us, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. One thing is certain in that quiet town, no one looks at the river the same way anymore. Its current whispers of voices lost, promises broken, and mysteries that may never be solved. The question remains, do you believe she escaped something unspeakable? Or is she still part of it?
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Most importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon so the next secret finds you first.